What's up, everyone? Welcome back into our mock draft coverage. We have officially hit double digits. This is number 10 pick. Joining me to represent the Washington Wizards is Chase Hughes. Chase, we're one back-to-back. Last year, this year, you think you're gonna, did you get the correct one? Last year, I didn't even look to check.
I didn't get the correct pick, but in my defense, Corey Kispert was not on the board. So I took Jalen Johnson, who ended up going to the Hawks and spent a lot of time in the G League, but I think he's going to be a pretty good player. So it doesn't look too bad in hindsight.
It's always more difficult when you're like not the top couple because you're like, this guy's off the board. I wanted to choose him. But okay, let's talk about the Wizards this year. They missed the playoffs, 35-47 record. Now they have the number 10 pick. Obviously looking to build around Bradley Beal, Porzingis. And you tweeted this morning that a whole bunch of guys are off the board that, you know, the Wizards may be interested in, but you listed a whole lot of guys, right? That, or even I think earlier in the month, earlier in May, you had listed a whole bunch of guys. It was like Mathurin, Duran, Davis, Easton, Daniels, Washington. There's like a whole list of guys that like could fit within what Washington is looking to do. Does Washington at this point at number 10 look at just best available player? Or is it important to look at, you know, maybe a guy who can shoot, maybe a guy who can be that backcourt guy with Bradley Beal? Like where kind of are they looking at right now in terms of players?
Well, their biggest needs this offseason are 3-point shooting, defense, and at point guard. They were the worst 3-point shooting team in the league last year. They made the fewest threes of any team. Defensively, they were ranked 25th in defensive rating. And given the Spencer Dinwiddie experiment didn't work out, they are back to square one looking for a starting point guard. So I think there's a chance that in this year's draft, they can address some of those needs more than one in the same player, particularly if Dyson Daniels of G League Ignite was available at 10. But after the combine, he's got a lot of momentum. He's rising up draft boards. And now there's a major question about whether he'll be available. So I think in a general sense, they got to go with best player available. Yes, they want to win now. They want to re-sign Bradley Beal and be back in the playoffs. But you're drafting in this day and age, you're drafting guys oftentimes who are 19, 20 years old. You got to draft a guy based on what he'll be 3 or 4 years from now, not what he'll be in the short term. You don't want to pass on a future star for a guy that can help you in year one when, you know, you could look back and be kicking yourself.
Okay. Question then. If you're not looking necessarily for someone to come in and like right off the bat, I feel like there are a few players that can come in and contribute right away. AJ Griffin. I don't feel like he'll come in and be a star right away, but I do feel like he could come in and contribute in a 3-and-D type of way. Is that attractive for the Wizards?
Absolutely. You know, one of their needs, I think, on the roster that I didn't mention is upside, and he's got a lot of it. He has star potential. He's a very athletic player. Shot 45% from 3 last year at Duke, and he might fall down the board on draft night simply because of injury concerns, because he missed basically 2 years in high school, but he played every game last year at Duke, 39 games. So that to me said everything I need to know about his durability. And he started the year with a knee problem, and he was able to play through it, and he was able to get his bearings and be very productive. So if he's on the board, I absolutely think he'd be a good option for the Wizards.
Yeah. Durability in terms of a college season rather than a high school season says a lot about a player, I think. I mean, more than high school. Another player that I think could be potentially best talent is Johnny Davis. And he could potentially be the most kind of complete backcourt player in this draft right now. Is there an upside to him? You know, like he's a really good defender. You were talking about defense on the ball, off the ball. You don't have to tell me like which one is ahead of who, but does Johnny Davis provide something that the Wizards could also benefit from?
Certainly. I mean, he gets a lot of high regards for his two-way potential. He's a tough defender, and he's a very smart offensive player. He comes in about 6'5", 6'6". He's got a really good understanding of pacing, particularly in the half court. He's a crafty creator off the dribble. 30% shooter from 3, that would concern me a little bit moving forward because he's not the most high-flying athlete. He's not particularly big for his position. But, you know, it's interesting. Last week, I interviewed Tracy McGrady, one of the best scorers of all time. And I said, I don't know how much you have seen of the players coming through the draft, but who you think's going to be a star? He said Jabari Smith Jr. and he said Johnny Davis. He thinks Johnny Davis is going to be a perennial all-star at the next level. Now, Tracy McGrady doesn't work in a front office. He hasn't been a GM before, but he knows offensive talent. He thinks that Johnny Davis has a super high ceiling in that regard.
I'm wondering if he likes Johnny Davis because Davis does remind me of like kind of like an old school basketball player, like his footwork, the way he like attacks the rim. I wonder if it's like a little old school connection there that Johnny Davis has with T-Mac, but it's beside the point. Eason's another guy that maybe could come in and fit a role for the Wizards. He's being compared to OG Anunoby right now. And like, I don't think anyone in the league would say no to having OG Anunoby on their team.
I like Tari Eason's game a lot. He's known for his defense. He's a very versatile, tough defender, disruptive, has a 7'2" wingspan. He just really
gets biggest hands in the draft, apparently. I don't know why we're doing that or why it matters, but defensively, I don't know.
No, it's worth mentioning. I mean, everyone will think of Kawhi Leonard when you hear that, the wingspan, the hand size. I mean, those are traits that are going to play on the defensive end. And I think he's got more offensive potential than a lot of people give him credit for. Only a 36% shooter on low volume in college, but that's about average. I mean, that's something to build off of. And I think he's a pretty decent creator with the ball in his hands. He gets to the rim, and when he gets to the rim, he's very gifted at finishing in traffic. I see a great feel for the game when he's up in the air, when he's trying to avoid rim protectors. So I think he's one of the best two-way prospects expected to go in the second half of the lottery. And even though he's 21 years old, I think there's a lot of potential there because he was at Cincinnati. He transferred to LSU. He had a breakout year, and the trajectory is there. And it suggests that he loves the game. He's willing to work at it and willing to improve. And, he worked out for the Wizards recently. I was impressed talking to him. I think he's a very smart guy. I think he's very committed to getting better. And he's someone that I would definitely take a chance on.
It hurts my soul that 21 is considered old. And I know. It says it's like 18, 19-year-olds rookies, but okay, Chase, let's get to it. I'm going to put you on the clock. The number 10 pick. And like, we only brought up 3 guys. If there's another guy from abroad, maybe if there's anyone else, like it's on you. You don't have to feel like you have to pick those, but you're on the board. Number 10 for the Washington Wizards, Chase Hughes is choosing
AJ Griffin of Duke. And this would be pretty amazing because it would be the 5th straight year the Wizards have drafted a wing or a forward or basically a player of his size and his position. But I think he's got the highest ceiling of any of those guys. 45% shooter from 3 last year at Duke. That's a major need for the Wizards. And they just need someone with star potential. They've made some smart draft picks. Rui Hachimura, Corey Kispert, Denny Avdia, all those guys that are going to have long, successful NBA careers. But I think Griffin has a better chance to be a star than any of them. And he's also got the potential to be a good defender. It wasn't a standout skill for him in college, but he's got the athletic traits. And I think he's a committed player on that end. And he's also shown some flashes as a creator off the dribble. He's got a nice little step back jumper. I see potential for him to be a really good offensive player. And right now I'm watching the NBA Finals. I'm seeing Jaylen Brown kind of break out as a star for the Boston Celtics. I think a best case scenario for AJ Griffin would look like Jaylen Brown. Now, he's got a long way to go to get there, but that's the type of player he could be if everything works correctly for him.
Hey, I think if you broadcasted to the world right now or like the Wizards world and you were like, look, this guy could look like Jaylen Brown, no one's saying no to that.
Certainly. And, it's a situation where, as I said earlier, he fell to the 10th pick. I think that's simply because of the injury concerns. A guy who missed a lot of time in high school with ankle injuries and other injuries, but playing every single game in college and being as productive as he was, especially once he kind of got up to speed because he missed so much time in high school. There was an adjustment. Yeah. And for him to play as well as he did for Duke and stand out as much as he did on a really good team, I was really impressed with what I saw from him in college. I think he has a chance to make an impact right away at the NBA level and present very, very high long-term upside because he's only 18 years old.
And on top of 18, see what I mean? And on top of that, 2 of the things that you said they needed is 3-point shooting and defense. And he's a 3-and-D guy who can come in. And like we said, I think from day one, I don't think he'll be like on over top of Bradley Beal, but do I think he could be a number 2 to Bradley Beal? Absolutely. All right, everyone watching at home, make sure you are tuned in. Tomorrow, we're going to continue our mock draft with the number 11 pick.